E.O. Fleming, Max Middleman. The Japanese music producer, Tomoko Yamada. And the executive producer of Japan, Shin Sasaki. Remember, we have a raffle at the end, so don't lose your tickets. Oh, we had to close it after 20 minutes, so some of you may not have gotten the raffle tickets, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's begin. Hi guys, thank you for coming.
Hello. Hello.
You guys want to say something to the fans first?
Hi, did you enjoy that screening?
Thank you guys for coming. I remember watching Gundam a long time ago, and I think I'm just so excited that I know that a lot of US fans have been so loyal and waiting for so long, and like now that there's like we have more shows and more English versions, and you guys are all coming out and supporting it, and like I think that the success is really because of your support. So thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you. My name is Tomoko Yamada from Sunrise Music Publishing. Thank you for coming Thunderbolt screening and panel today. Oh, thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Shin Sasaki from Sunrise. Thunderbolt now showing in Japan. I'm glad to show you Thunderbolt this early. Thanks.
Alright, so I have a few questions for the panelists. So Thunderbolt, just to explain a little bit if you don't know the background, Thunderbolt started out as a manga in 2012 and ever since has sold 1.6 million copies in Japan. So there are currently 8 volumes out, and the series is still continuing in Japan. So that's a little background about Thunderbolt. Mr. Sasaki, could you tell us the process of how the anime came about as an adaptation of the manga?
じゃあここから日本語で。
はい、どうぞ。
はい、そうですね。もともと日本でコミック誌ビッグコミックスペリオールというんですけれども、その漫画雑誌でのまず連載、大高木康夫さんという漫画家さんに、この作品をまず漫画として書いてもらいました。
So, just as I said, it is a manga series in Japan. It's running in a magazine called Big Comic Speriol. Okay, anyway. So we asked this manga artist, Mr. Otagaki Yasuo, to do this manga series, and that's how Thunderbolt started.
で最初からアニメにしようと思っていたわけではないんですけれども、ちょうどこのスタジオで作っていたガンダムユニコーンという作品がちょうど終わりまして、でそのタイミングで、さっきエンディングクレジットにも出ていました、高谷さんという作画監督と中森文さんという作画監督がいるんですけれども、その、2人の作画監督から、この作品をやりたいというオファーを受けました。
So we weren't planning to make the manga into an anime series at first, but so Sunrise has different studios, and then this one is done by Studio One, and they're the same team who brought you Gundam Unicorn. They had just finished working on thank you. Stephanie was part of that too. And they just finished Unicorn, and they had like a little bit of opening, like a little bit of time, and then so the two art directors, Mr. Takaya and Mr. Morifumi, they're like, I think we want to make Thunderbolt, the manga, into an anime series.
でやっぱりその作画マンがやりたいという企画なので、非常に作画が皆さん見ていただいて、素晴らしい作画だったと思うんですけれども、じゃあぜひ、作画マン、監督は、松尾光さんという方にお願いしたんですけれども、そのチームでやろうという話になってこの企画が成立しています。
So obviously, since these art directors said they wanted to do it, I don't know if you noticed, but it's really pretty. Yeah, what do you think? Is it really pretty? So they decided to work with, so we chose the director, Mr. Ko Matsuo, and as a team, they started to work on Thunderbolt the anime. Okay, and that is all. But Mr. Sasaki, you were originally involved from the manga series to begin with, because you are the Gundam guy. 最初から関わってたんですよね、漫画の方。
そうですね。はい。最初から。
ガンダム guy ですか？ Yes, yes. He is a Gundam guy, so he was involved from the manga series. So he's involved in everything Gundam in Japan right now. So, okay. Could you talk about the unique way it was sold in Japan? So, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if there's anyone who doesn't know, but it was 18 minutes per episode for a total of 4 episodes, released online as an ONA, which is, I had to look it up too, Online Net Animation. So it's not OVA, and ONA. So why did you decide to go with this format?
そうですね、まずこのスタジオで前作「ガンダムユニコーン」という作品を約5年間かけて作りましたんで、ちょっとやり方を変えようというのがまず最初に考えとしてありました。
So first we wanted, also the same studio who did Unicorn did it. So Unicorn took 5 years. So we're like, let's change the format a little bit because 5年間やりたくないってことですか？ Because we didn't want to work on another thing for another 5 years.
で今回は1時間ものとして、漫画の第4巻までを、1本のものとして作ろうという目標がありましたんで、じゃあそれを、月単位で毎月15分ずつ、配信で展開していこうというようなアイデアを思いつきました。
So we wanted to make something that's 60 minutes. So we chose the storyline until up to volume 4 in the manga series. And so we're like, okay, so let's break that up into 60 minutes divided by 4, and then have it released every month. Break it up.
で毎月毎月の締め切りを作ることで1時間をできる限り短期間でちゃんと作ろうというのが今回の第一の目的です。
いつも締め切りを守らないから。So we decided like, okay, so we've set that, okay, we're going to release it every month. So there's a set deadline. So I thought that we could meet the deadline better because they usually don't meet the deadlines. 以上ですか？はい。Okay, next question. So Thunderbolt shows the horrific realities of war. So it covers the main things of what you would call pure Gundam. I saw that online, pure Gundam. So was that what you were? Thank you. Was that what you were going for? Thunderbolt 戦争の残酷。
そうですね。いろんな今ガンダムが作られている時代ですので、ある程度こういう作品では戦争の悲惨さとか痛みとかそういったものを訴える必要があるなと思ってそういう作品にしました。
So right now there's a lot of Gundam out now. Gundam out now. A lot of Gundam out now, and so they're like some of them are lighthearted, some of them are so lighthearted. Mostly not. But we thought like, oh, we need something that that shows the pain and like the horrible stuff about war. So that's how we went.
ただ僕自身もね戦争を体験した世代ではないので、そういう問題提起がねできていればいいなと思ってます。
問題提起。So I'm also not a generation who experienced war. So I think that we constantly need to say, yeah, war is not as glorified as it is. So we need to constantly remind ourselves or remind people. Miss Yamada. So music is a big part of Thunderbolt. And this is the first time jazz was used in Gundam. So could you tell us the process of how you chose the composer and some backstories about that?
漫画原作の中にジャズやポップスがもうすでにシーンとして描かれていたので、そこからキャラクターや登場人物の、なんていうんですかね、性格だったりシーンの、出撃シーンを表すのに、 最初からすみません重要な要素になっていました。
So the original manga had the jazz and oldies pop incorporated inside. So that's where we started. We were like, okay, so we need to find someone who could do jazz and who could do oldies pop because when they go out into battle, that's what they're listening to.
で、作品のリアルな戦いとか人物描写、描く作品で音楽も本物、ジャズのスペシャリストにお願いするしかないかなと思いまして、今回日本で、一番有名な菊池成吉さんという作曲家の方に、ご依頼したところ快諾していただきました。
So we're like, okay, so we wanted to make sure that the jazz was real jazz. So we decided that we want to ask someone who is a jazz specialist. So not a composer who could also compose jazz, but someone who has experience in jazz, like a sort of a specialist. So we asked the most famous jazz musician in Japan, and his name is Naruyoshi Kikuchi.
菊池成吉さんは、カウボーイビバップの、サックスプレイヤーでも参加されていて、ルパン
ちょっと一旦切ります。
はい。
ビバップって聞いちゃったから。So he is actually a saxophone player in some of the cowboy bebop music that you hear on Cowboy Bebop. Does that make sense? So he didn't compose or anything, but...
作曲家としては、ルパン、峰不二子という女という作品の音楽も関わっていらっしゃいます。
And as a composer, he worked on Lupin Mine Fujiko, or in Japanese, it's the woman known as Mine Fujiko. So he also composed for that. Okay. Could you talk a little bit about Io's and Daryl's music? Ioとダリルの音楽について。
はい。イオは、攻撃的で、生まれも育ちも上流階級の、方なので、ロックではなくてジャズというのを、原作の方が、考えてらっしゃったようで、これ聞きますか？
はい、聞きます。ありがとうございます。So Io, he is born in the upper class, and he's also aggressive. So we need to think of something that fits him, right? But since he's born in the upper class, it's not really rock. He's more jazz. And that was also the manga artist's request or intention that because he's highborn and he's aggressive, jazz would be perfect for him.
でダリルは、穏やかで優しい青年なので皆さんが聴くようなポップスを、好んで聴いてらっしゃるという設定になっています。
And then Daryl is just like, unlike Io, he's very calm and kind-hearted, so he likes normal music that everyone will listen to. あとは
今回の、BGM 音楽は、戦闘中に流れているラジオから聞こえる音楽、彼らが聴いている各々の音楽という設定で、音楽作っています。
So the music that you hear when you're watching the show, it's actually not technically background music, but it's the music that is running or playing from each of their music players. They keep calling it a radio, but I don't know if it's a player, if it's an iPod, whatever. So it's not BGM, but just their respective music players. Isn't it? The featured songs are also pretty catchy as well, but do they have like a common theme, or could you tell us a little bit about those?
挿入歌はすべて菊池成吉さんが作詞もされていらっしゃっていて、
So all the feature songs, the composer, Mr. Kikuchi, also wrote the lyrics.
で基本的にはラブソングが多いんですけれども、イオとダリルの関係性をライバルなんですが運命的な相手ということで、そういうふうにラブソングをモチーフに描いている。
Okay, so the feature songs all of them are love songs, and then they're supposed to express, I know this is going to sound weird at first, it's supposed to express Io and Daryl's relationship, but not in that way. More like they're destined to be rivals. So just like how lovers are destined to be together, it's more like that. So it's not anything weird, guys. Okay. あと菊池さんがポップが好きとか。
菊池さんは、ジャズの、スペシャリストなんですけれども、もともと50年代、60年代の洋楽もお好きで、オールディーズポップも。で、今回引き受けてくださった一つの理由が、そういう音楽も書けるということで、そういうことで受けていただきました。
So Mr. Kikuchi is a jazz musician and he is a specialist, but he also does like American 50s, 60s oldies pop. So one of the reasons why he accepted our job offer was that he could also write pop songs and not just jazz songs. Music, not songs. Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Yamada. So we're gonna skip Max, sorry, Stephanie. It was the microphone reason that we put you there.
Oh, the height?
Yeah, that was so good. Anyway, so Stephanie, so this is another Universal Century Gundam that you're involved with. The previous ones being Gundam Unicorn, the next one being the Gundam Origin.
Yes.
And now Thunderbolt. So is there something you take care with when you're dealing with this beloved franchise?
Yes, definitely. Because it's the same reality and it's not an alternate universe, and we definitely, in terms of like casting, I really try not to use the same actors over and over again. So now after Unicorn and after Origin, now with Thunderbolt, and as you guys all know, Gundam tends to be a sausage fest. It's getting pretty hard, and it's like, oh, wait, no. Okay, it's difficult. Also, the other thing is the mortality rate in Gundam series is very high, so I'm constantly having to find new men, which is always it's a challenge. But the cool thing too is that I get to think outside the box, and it really pushes me in terms of casting. And I do find new people. For example, I actually want to just give a shout out to Christian Lamont over here. He's sitting in the audience. He did the voice of Cornelius, and you've seen it. And this is your anime debut, right?
Yes, it
Yeah, it's his anime debut, and so I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to have found a talent like him, if I wasn't really tapped for more men.
You're saying it was a hard job
All right, that's interesting. I mean, all aspects of that answer was interesting. So Stephanie, you actually said this was your favorite Gundam series, and then our colleague Akane was like, really? I don't know. This is how exactly she said it. So can you elaborate on why this is your favorite?
So I don't want to sound like I'm speaking negatively to the other series, but this work is the type of show that I personally like to watch. Unicorn was really great, but it was very cerebral and political. And Origin, which I love finding, out Char's origin story, the tone is a little bit more comedy and more like kind of your typical anime. This to me is the most filmic, and it's also the most dark. I don't know what that says about my personality, but I really gravitate towards that. And for me, I feel like this work does the best of not playing sides. It's really hard to pick your favorite. You feel bad for both sides, and instead of just saying like, clearly this is a pro-Xeon or a pro-Federation piece. So that's why it's my favorite.
So could you talk a little little bit about the localization process. I mean, I was part of it as well, but do you have any fun stories that we had in the recording session?
It was, I don't know. I mean, what I really appreciated is that on this piece, the producers were very, they let me have, I'm not being very eloquent. They let me have freedom to write lines that were organic to like the fight scenes. So I didn't always have to say like, oh, Gundam, oh, missed it, or oh, get it, like the same generic terms that you see in an anime fight scene. Like, we really tried to be creative about it and really have them respond to each other. So that was really great. Here's a little interesting side story, and Max can attest to this. Especially Johnny and Max, they had to do so much yelling. And usually we tried to break it up, but as you saw in the piece, there was so much yelling. It's like we couldn't really save it for the end. It doesn't matter. Like every other line is like yelling. So we tried to make it a little bit more fun. So we got all different kinds of cough drops, like all sorts of different flavors of cough drops, like 6 different flavors for them to try. And so he was giving his commentary like, I like this one.
I would actually have to pause between takes. I'm sorry, I need a moment, I need to finish the cough drop. But it was all sorts of flavors, yeah.
He did not like the Chinese plum.
Chinese plum is really bad.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Max, so how did you feel about performing as EO?
It was really cool. First of all, to be in a Gundam series to begin with, that's like, I don't know anybody my age, I don't know personally anybody my age who didn't at once in their life have a fantasy of being in a Gundam suit or like piloting a Gundam. Like if you couldn't have powers, I guess the next best thing is to like be in a suit that's got powers. So it was super cool. Like EO, I feel like some of my favorite characters to play are characters that like have a really strong sense of justice and go after that in a hard way. And EO is, he's got that rebellious personality, and he's not crazy, but he's unstable in ways. And those are like my favorite characters. And yeah, there's a lot of yelling, but that's my favorite stuff to do. Unfortunately, you can't do it very much because you lose your voice and you're not able to work, but it's kind of cathartic. So I guess that's my answer for that. EO is a cathartic character to portray.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you perform in the other Gundam that we're dubbing right now, and I think you had a little bit more fun as EO because I think you got to go crazy.
Yeah.
And that goes to my next question. I mean, EO is a character who has like a fierce temperament, but also has a tragic past. And do you have any similarities with EO?
I'm also crazy. No, I think it's that justice thing. I mean, you gotta understand where a character is coming from when you go into the booth and what their motivations are. And like EO, he might be somewhat crazy, but for him he's not. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't think he's crazy. You have to ground the character in some way, because if you start off already in that mental state that he's crazy, he can do it, he'll go off the rails, and then it's not gonna feel real. It's gonna feel like a caricature of the character. So yeah, just you ground the character and then they become a real character.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you like jazz or do you like pop?
Oh my God! So that was the other reason that this is one of my favorite series, is because of the jazz. And it's really cool to be sitting next to the producer of the whole thing, because that the jazz is one of my favorite genres of music, and I feel like it added so much to the series. That was for the same reason I liked Cowboy Bebop. I think the jazz elements in that. Yeah. So yeah, that was really cool.
All right, Stephanie, do you like jazz or pop?
I like pop. I also like jazz. It's not an either or. I think I listen. Okay, I like the like more commercially jazz, and then sometimes there's other jazz that's a little bit more complicated where like the rhythm changes and stuff like that. I have a harder time with that kind of stuff. My brother's actually a musician and he loves jazz, and so he often he has these like backing tracks that he like improvs along with and stuff like that. And it's harder for me to like wrap my head around it, kind of like patterns in my music, so I gravitate towards pop.
What about like big band jazz?
I love that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's a little bit more like standard with patterns and stuff. It's the free jazz actually that I have a harder time with.
Like you're not gonna listen to that while you're like drifting off to sleep.
No.
山田さんはジャズとポップどっちが好きですかね？
両方好きです。
Oh, she likes both because well, she is in the music business. 佐々木さんは
圧倒的にジャズです。
Jazz, definitely jazz. All right, well, that is all for the questions. I want to open up to take a few questions from the audience. So we don't have a standing mic, and we also don't have a wireless mic, so I'm going to have to hear you and repeat your question. So if you have a question, raise your hand.